Can you hear me?
Oh my God.
Yes, I can hear.
Yeah. It's now 5.5 hours of difference now. India, Australia.
Okay, Shavalin and Dhruva. Okay. Hi, Shavalin. Hello, Dhruva.
Hi, everyone.
Shavalin, busy. PhD.
Hello, sir. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, but long time no see.
Yeah, there a long time no see. I just hope we meet now regularly onwards.
Uh-huh. What did you say? You submitted your proposal or something? Something was.
Actually, I was working on my synopsis, so continuously busy with reading and writing. And from the last 1.5 months, I was working on my synopsis writing.
Okay.
So just day before yesterday, I have submitted it to my supervisor.
Mhm.
Now she'll review it and let me know if I have to edit it further or not. Then we will apply for the RDC and the submission of the synopsis. And then I
Good,
will
good,
be
good, good.
a candidate. I will get the candidacy for PhD thesis. So that is all about
You'll be candidate for?
candidacy for PhD thesis.
Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
synopsis is like when we we make our home, we make map of the home before constructing it.
mhm.
It's like synopsis is like a kind of framework that we research and that we write before writing thesis. So we need to get approval of the RDC committee from the chairman of the university before writing PhD thesis. So it's a kind of that.
Okay. Swapnil has sent a warning message one to me that he has started the recording.
Okay.
Swapnil, uh, we will wait a couple of minutes as usual. It's 5:45 now. Just 2 minutes, and then we'll start off with hydrogen release and the three talks.
Hello everyone. Yeah, I didn't
Yes,
miss anyone.
right. So, Shaolin, just before I forget, or you unmute your screen, you are researching on virtual reality, right? No?
Yes, sir. My topic is on hyperreality, and one of the aspects it's of virtual reality.
Okay.
That is why
Okay.
I am reading your book with my critical analysis.
God's bubble. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I really need to improve my reading skills because you write really well. I have to read 2-3 times a single page just to understand a thing.
All right. Oh, okay. But we try to keep it very simple, actually.
My reading skills are bad. You are okay. I've told you. I think I'm not a good reader. I do not like to read anything. I didn't like to read anything before, but now I am into a
But
job where I have to read a lot.
your comfort zone is romances, so
Yeah.
romantic books and novels. Okay. Just one more minute, and then I will hand it over to Lavanya for start of the proceedings. All set, na? Shikha? Shikha?
Yeah, hi.
From your side,
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
set, no? Okay, okay.
yeah,
Actually, the
it's kind of.
hydrogen. Bolo. Actually, Shikha, if you wake up her in the middle of her sleep, also can do a lecture on D.H. Lawrence.
No, I hope it will be of some, well, worth.
Definitely, it should be worth it. Yeah.
Mm.
So I put a message
You're
in hands of people who want to join can join. Uh, okay, I put another message just now. Direct message. Revati ji said she might join. There's one more person who said they'll join at the initial list. Thumbs up तो बहुत लोगों ने दिया, Harshita and other people. So, all right, 508. I think we should start. We have to start now. Can't wait more than this. So it's Swapnil, you are in the speaker mode, right? Okay, we can start, no?
Hello.
No, I'm asking Swapnil if he's in the presentation mode. Speaker mode. After that, I think we can go ahead. Over to you, Swapnil Kaur, looking beautiful today. Okay. Okay. It's over to you, Lavanya, for the hydrazine launch. And yeah, go ahead, please. 1 second, Ravi Teja is coming. 1 minute.
Shikha, can you go on mute?
Yeah.
A warm welcome to Ravi Gauri Taneja, whom we saw 3 months back, I think. And a quarter has passed, and he must have made at least 2 crore rupees during this quarter. Thanks, Ravi, for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining today's proceedings. Okay.
Really? Come on.
Only 2 crores. Okay, 3 make it 3 then, yeah. Good to see you, man. Okay. We're about to start today's sessions, 4 sessions. And starting with hydrazine launch and then 3 talks on D.H. Lawrence's books. I was just saying over to you, Lavanya, and then you came in. Okay, now actually over. What did you say, Ravi?
Good evening, sir. Good evening to everyone.
Good evening. Yeah.
Good evening, Ravi.
Okay, over to you, Lavanya. Take it from here.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I think I don't have to give this my normal speech about Hydra. Everybody here is mostly Hydra, except for Stefano and Christine. So for them, just a brief introduction. So Hydra stands for Hyderabad Readers and Writers. So this is basically a reading and writing club, and Hyderabad is in Telangana state of India. And over a period of time, we are slowly evolving. We're a small community and still a small community, but would like to really make a great change in literature. So one of our initiatives is the quarterly e-magazine, which is free to read to everyone. After the launch, what I do is I usually share the links on email to all the contributors and to all the subscribers, and also on our Hydra WhatsApp group and on a few social media pages. So let me just share my screen and we'll briefly look at the hydrazine before we officially distribute the links to everyone. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. So this is the official. This is the hydrazine issue 3, volume 2. So this is just a second year of design. And so the way it goes is we do the design every quarterly. So Jan to February, we usually release it in March, April to June in July, August to September in October. And the last one is in January. But what we also do is we also annually compile all the articles, all the stories, poems, and everything into one sort of an ebook, and we upload it on Amazon. And that is available as an annual issue, and anybody who has a link can download it from Amazon and go through. So just I'm going to take you through very briefly. So we have the 3 or 4 sections. The first thing is articles. This time we have Muralidhar Muralidharan Sir's poetry review. This is the first time that we are featuring a poetry review. Very interesting. Please have a read after that. Then there is Fiction Techniques by Kalam Babu, who is here. So as we proceed, and whoever writers or the contributors for this magazine are present here, I would briefly give them some talking space to talk briefly about their articles or picture or poems or short stories. So since we have Kalam Babu here, who is AK, also known as Mehboob Hussain. So few words, why did you start this fiction techniques, and you want to share some insights about this just briefly? Also, this is featured in two parts. This is the first part. The rest of the fiction techniques will be covered in the next issue. So Mehboob, you there? A few minutes.
Yeah. Why I wrote? Just to
Mhm.
give more coverage to my notes. I have couple of diaries that I jot in good ideas. It's like a good ideas book diaries I have, and then fiction is not just Harry Potter, and who else? Stephen King. That you open a page, read the chapter 1, chapter 2, something happens to the protagonist, and then they take a decision and some climax and resolution, action.
They're very actually
So
interesting
within fiction
techniques.
topic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I was like starting jotting. I started jotting down earlier this year. Ki, what are the various techniques structurally you can do, or kind of do experimentation, and then quickly grew up into like 7 bullet points or something,
Mhm.
right? And I just noted down one by one as I came across my readings or discussions in online forums and so on. And then we hardly know how much of a like ocean fiction is.
Right.
right? right,
Right.
right,
And some of the things that you covered is like, it was like mind blowing.
right, right.
Long prose and
So this
then
guy below the
all
Sibo writes one sentence, 4 pages, and 2 sentences per chapter,
my
and
goodness.
he gets like he's an awarded
Okay.
writer.
Mhm.
Then Arabian Nights. We only know
Yeah.
about Arabian Nights and heard some names like uh, Alibaba, Charlie Choran. But then, who realized that the narrator is a princess on death row? If she doesn't tell
Mm.
a story, she'll be killed in the morning by the sultan. And
Yes.
in her story, she goes story in story 7 levels deep. Okay, right, right. And Arabian Nights has been there for a few hundred years now. And whoever realized that the thing which started as an oral storytelling technique has this embedded story structure. We think this is like something modern and all.
Yeah.
And Auden is a like he mixes like nothing else. He writes a book review in the form of a poem.
That
His
was the first
travelogue
part, I
mixes
think. Yeah.
poetry, prose, and fiction. So all these are like if you think that writing a story, a short story or novella or a novel itself is a uh, big task with lot of detailing and care. Now simultaneously doing with such techniques, story within story or super long sentences or mixing three
Right.
types of forms, and then see what Virginia Woolf does in the waves. Uh, there is no structure there. Each chapter is like 5 monologues or 6 monologues. One character says something for 1.5 page, then the next character will say for half a page, then the next character 3 page. So chapter wise, they come of age just through monologues. Something that Shakespeare tried on the theater, but in a prose and fiction storytelling, then within that there is a postmodernist thoughts like intertextuality or fragmentation and all that she has done. What geniuses these guys are, and they lived 100 years back, 200 years back, and all.
Yeah.
So of course, for us modern fiction writers, the first thing is to establish a brand and maybe make some reputation. Money, I think, I won't even go there. But once you're established, then probably people should try some of these techniques to, kind of embellish their storytelling. Otherwise, if your 22nd book is like 21st book, is like your first book, your 21st book and first book are the same opening image, opening shut up, then inciting incident, all that. Then, I mean, you haven't explored much as a writer. So first of all, I wrote these to be aware of myself about what fiction you can do to you and your writing, and then my first instance to discuss with you one to one and see how we can, now that we are writing a third book, fourth book, slowly get into it. Then I thought, why not expose it to the bigger world, Facebook and Hydrogen, or maybe cover up this all and put it on Medium, and then probably we'll get much better, thoughts. Like Shavlin has read till part 6, I think. Remaining 3 she says she'll read and give her feedback, and then maybe you and I can we can discuss in much more detail with some feedback from the outer world. So Hydrogen is one such forum where giving this detailing of various techniques in fiction.
So thank you for that. And then we'll quickly move on to a poem section. So the first poem is Arnab, who is there with us, The Ultimate Fabrication. So Arnab, if you're here, maybe a few seconds on what inspired you to write this poem.
Lavanya, before Arnab says, can I request you to show the poem on the screen? When?
Yeah, I'm on the poem page. Can't you see?
Yeah, that will be helpful because I can see and.
Right. Table of contents, everything is linked there. So yeah.
No, but I'm on the poem page. Can't you? So what are you?
I'm still seeing the cover.
Yeah, still seeing the cover.
Oh, that's the problem. Some latency, I think. Let me present the screen again. Stop time.
Do you want me to share the screen so that I can?
Okay, no, 1 second.
Is it okay for you if I share the screen?
No, I shared the wrong. 1 second. That's why
Okay. Even the flip book was pretty good for.
No. I was thinking I was sharing the flip book, but I was sharing actually the PDF.
PDF, right.
So I selected tab instead of window. That was a confusion. So can you all see now the poem?
Can you maximize it using that square that one?
Very small.
No, not and drag it down.
Maybe I think I should share the PDF probably. That's better.
Okay.
Where is the case? Just sorry for the concept. Give me a minute. Yeah, now I think. So now you can see the cover, right?
Yes.
Because this looks pretty good. Here we go. Can you see the poem now? This is all I can do.
Yeah, it's better, I guess.
So, Neb, what inspired you to write this poem?
Yeah, Lavanya, I wrote this poem, I guess, some 15 years back.
15 years back?
Yeah, it's from my blog. Okay. So I just thought of giving you a very old poem of mine. It talks about life.
Mhm.
So, my perspective about life at that time, right? Arnab Dasgupta minus 15 years. So it's kind of a compilation of my thoughts of what life looked like at that time. So the inspiration, I would say, my understanding about life, I always was, you know, um, kind of speculative about what life is, what human nature is, and all that. I think that inspired me to write this particular poem. Just to give you a quick background of what it is, um, the first stanza, um, love, peace, and strings of vibration, of heaven, of positivity, of verbatim hopes, demands of layer unformed, and claiming the multi-knot ropes. I talk about how life can, you know, seem to look like a straight line, but if you tie knots in various stages of the ropes of the straight line, life is that complex. So I'm trying to draw life in two different phases. One is to show how life can be straightforward, and also how life can be complex at the same time. The second stanza of what is not the simultaneity, separated but is part of the whole, unknowing, unwilling in attempt of that of the truth, of that of the soul. The second stanza talks about I was very much influenced about influenced reading Einstein's theory of relativity at that time. So simultaneity is one part of that theory. It talks about how life can be universal, absolute, and also can be relativistic at the same time. I'm always talking about two different phases of life, how it can be visualized as a whole, at the same time can be visualized in parts, relativity and wholesome. Third, the third para, in building the livable in here, in reciting the Johns in jaunt and bits, the progression is in varied phases, the occurrence in several meets. It again talks about the phases of life, right? It talks about um, different phases of life, of how we can, you know, see the same thing happening in different phases. And finally, I'm not going in depth of it because I can talk about it for length of time. But the fourth para is unconditional, unavoidable love, unallocated spaces of new wish, um, restless bees in the beehives aren't preparing a whole new dish. So while defining life, I also talk about how love influences us in visualizing life. How we cannot ignore the the unconditional nature of things. There's certain things which we cannot avoid, and at the same time, we fall for it. The more and more we become experienced, we understand the true nature of it. But at the end of all of it, we understand that it's the same thing that is happening. The last two line, restless bees in the beehives aren't preparing a whole new dish. So I'm talking about, it's not something that is unusual or new that we are doing. It's the same thing. Life is repetitive. That's my observation.
Thank you for a detailed explanation. So nice to have your poem here. So this is the first time that you've contributed to the hydrogen. Hope in the
Yes.
future you'll be contributing more. So thank you for that. And so we have several other poems. We usually include one Hindi poem. This is by Mohit. And then we have one poem of mine also. I have included this time. And there is Shikha's poem. Shikha is going to talk in some time on D.H. Lawrence. But Shikha, if you're there, just wanted to know a little bit about this I'm Not Well. What inspired you to write this poem?
Uh, yeah, hi. This I'm not well is um it is something that just came to my mind, and it wasn't something. It is not based on something that was happening at the time when I wrote down the poem, but it the poem is about things that have happened to me in the past, and so it's also in a way. It also kind of draws attention to the fact that whenever somebody asks us, "Oh, how are you?" This is a common term or sentence that people keep on keep on speaking or mouthing, and we have an automatic response, "Oh, I'm fine." So but really, I wasn't consciously trying to go behind or trying to understand why we mouth this thing. We this, untruth. We are fine. Most of us are not fine. But yeah, so the poem, I think, will kind of delves into this whole thing, and talks about the authentic response, which is like buried under convention, or due to whatever reason is never spoken about. But it wasn't done consciously. I don't know how it came.
Thanks so much. It's a beautiful poem. And we have one more
Thank you.
poem by Debashish, who is not here. And then we come to the section short stories. Uh, so we have the first story by the Poonam Vaze, Barren Bloodline, and then we move to Revelation by Riti Bhaskar, who said she'll be joining. It's again one of a different theme. Then we have When Life in Death Survives by Chitra Gopalakrishnan. It's a beautiful story, very beautiful vocabulary, written in a very different style. So, hope you guys like it when it's good. And then we go to Cloud Seeding by Dhruva. So Dhruva is here. Dhruva, hi. Dhruva, if you would you like to share with us, like from where you got this idea on cloud seeding? It's a really a different uh, subject and a different. Normally, I don't think people would write a story on cloud seeding.
Once.
So how did this happen?
My 1 second. I think my video is having screen is having issue. I'll just. So generally, I was actually browsing. While browsing, I found that there is this conspiracy theory of some countries, people trying to put particles in the cloud, and yeah, they're not letting people know. So because of that, a lot of places were flooded. So yeah, a lot of places were flooded, and they have tried to cover it up, that thing. So I like that theory. So why not maybe turn it into fiction? And yeah, so that's the main source. Yeah, then I just changed it. What if in the future there is no water? Then if they use the same technique, what happens? So yeah, so like that I've written.
Okay, that's nice. And the last
No,
story that
1 second. It's not just a conspiracy theory. A very progressive and well-educated chief minister like our own Mr. KCR said that last month or the month before, that when there was heavy raining in Hyderabad, only Hyderabad, when other cities were not having, he said some foreigners came and did cloud seeding and went back. Now, and we are a very progressive, Telangana and Hyderabad, we consider ourselves as a very progressive and rational, forward state. Or our chief minister says some country foreigners came, put seeds, did cloud seeding. That's why unusual rains in Hyderabad. not and just trying to cover up that some parts of the city were flooded,
Yeah.
to divert or so probably there is a base, or I don't know, I mean what it is.
Yeah. So
Maybe KCR also follows the conspiracy theories on the internet.
Right.
That's
So
why
you can
people.
expand that thing if China wants to attack us, I don't know, they'll play with the clouds maybe, I don't know, or we can do the same to them.
You
yeah.
want to destroy a nation? Just do Cloud City. Have
It's
floods in that nation.
Khatarnak, yeah.
Yeah,
Although
exactly. Destroy it.
yeah.
All right.
Good one, Dhruva. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
And so the next story we have is A Woman in the Transition Era by Shavrin Kaur. So Shavrin is here, and it's a little different way of presentation again. So Shavrin, do you want to talk about it? How did this idea come to you? And you like put it in different parts. So could you share about that?
Hello, ma'am. For me, the inspiration of this story was my own struggles. Like, uh, I think when a woman choose career over marriage, over family, or any other thing in her life, she has to undergo triple struggle. Broadly speaking, triple struggles. Else she has to go so many stuff, she has to face so many things, but broadly speaking she has to undergo triple struggles, like one with the society in which she is competing and she is trying to prove herself, one with her family, like she every day, every now and then she has to convince her family, like she wants to do something, she wants to make her identity in the society, she wants to pursue her career in a specific field, but her family, her relatives, her surroundings, they want they really want her to uh, just get married and get settled in her life. So what if a woman like this choose to make her career over getting marrying a man, and what happened next? What if and what happened when finally she achieved something, she proves herself in the society, those people who were continuously poking and speaking something bad about the person, suddenly their whole mindset, their opinion change about the women. So this is how the things work, like पंजाबी में बोलते हैं चढ़दिया नु सलामा. So it's like the one who is achieving or growing in his her life, the other people only salute, and the other people's always uh, bow before them, those who are who are doing something in her life or achieving something in her life, in their life. But what happened if you do not what if you are continuously going through a struggle in your life, and there you have to maintain a peace, or you have to maintain a sanity with yourself as well, and at the same time you have to think about your career, you have to think about like where you lack something, how you have to improve yourself, and at the same time, because emotionally you are attached to your family the most, and these are the people who are continuously trying to hold you back to fly or to do something in your life. So this is a struggle of a girl who proves herself finally before her family, her relatives, her locality, her town, and finally she finds a way to follow in her life. So this is all about in this short story.
Inspiring. Very nice. So I hope Shavlin you will be contributing more articles or
Actually, this I should say my writing career has started today.
started. The debut.
This is the first thing I have written in my life. I haven't.
You made it a
I haven't.
fiction.
Shavlin, small
This
side
Yeah.
point there, and maybe Dhruva can attest to this. This marital pressure is there on boys also, okay?
correct.
Of
But
course,
not
it
it,
is.
it's
It
not
is
a
there.
mutual exclusive choice कि either शादी या नौकरी, ऐसा नहीं है.
Both.
Uh,
You have, I mean,
both.
naukri karna hai to it doesn't come in the way of job like the way it does for women,
I,
right?
I I don't understand the idea
No, no,
of.
hold on. I'll tell you. I joined from campus itself, first job when I was 22, and the moment I turned 24, my mother started shadi, get married, starting. So using one reason or the excuse or the other, I postponed it 5 years,
Uh,
and finally said, "Yeah, go ahead, mom, find a girl." 29, I was that time.
then she was
So
like, now
it's
who will
not.
I find for you? Now you are 29.
It's not at the expense of career. Like women have that choice. Shadi karke go to in-laws place. It's like do this also. The other thing is apart from this get married. I didn't have any fear ki if I cross this age I will not get matches. Girls have that pressure. I saw it with my sisters and cousins and all. I mean, I could wait till 28, 29, right? I mean, pushing back the family pressure next year, next year, next year. But even if I was 29, 30, 31, I never had issues कि कोई मिलेगी नहीं. मिल जाएगी कोई ना कोई. But girls have that कि above this 26 or 27 cutoff. I don't know if things have changed now currently in 2022. I'm talking about late last century. So
Sir, I'm 28 plus.
20,
8 plus.
you look 22 actually. Uh, I don't know. Amazing. Can't believe this. Like Arnab looks 30 or something. You look 22, right? Uh, when I heard Arnab say, I was like, I can't believe what do guys eat. I mean, right? So, Dhruva, what do you say about this societal pressures on marriage, kids to get married and all, youngsters?
I think more than husband and wife, I think children is our like bigger challenge.
Oh, after marriage, the grandkids, is it?
Yeah, the children
Okay, that
dealing with
demand.
children
Okay.
because we can't do anything. Writing, waiting, sub one.
No, no, is it still there? The pressure on boys to get married.
You
Uh,
can write on children fiction.
uh,
Yeah, good one.
that, pressure. I mean, it depends. I mean, if there is a girl in the family, then first she should get actually married, according to. So first, my sister is now they're seeing matches to my sister. So once she's done, my father and mother already told me that next year it's your marriage. Be
The
ready
moment
like
your
that.
sister
They're
is
going to.
married, get ready, beta.
Yeah,
You are
yeah,
in the line. She's younger to
yeah,
you, right?
yeah, yeah. She's younger, 1 year
It's
younger.
like money is related to man in terms, so that if a man do not have a proper job, he cannot marry unless he have a proper source of income. But for girls, this is a thing that is already attached, like before marriage she is something, she's the responsibility of father, and after marriage she has to be the responsibility of her husband. There is no problem in this. And I think we are themselves are also responsible for this, because I have seen so many girls, with no offense, like they want to have all fun in their life, and at last they want to go for a rich boy to get married. I don't know when this idea of getting independent uh, comes into women mind, and at the same time they have to realize that you have to marry a person not for the sake of money, not for the sake of your family, just because you want to be with a man, you want to share a life with a person in your life, you want to share happiness so that you both can grow together. But I don't know when are they going to change their perspective. I have seen well educated girls, they are saying such things that really hurts me, that really hurt me. Why? Because I have undergone through a lot of not struggles, everyone, but I want to make myself independent, and I want to make my own identity, not for others but for myself, so that in later years in my life, if I share my life with a person, I would like to share it for the sake of love, for the sake of happiness, and for the sake of growing and teaching each other or learning from each other, not for the sake of money. This is something I think we need to change in our perception, in our mindset, and in the society. This, I don't know, I can be offensive in a way, but this is something
No,
that really
you're not
needs.
No, no.
offensive.
Well said. Well said.
Well said,
Very well said.
actually. Right. And very, I mean, applause definitely from me for saying that. Because a lot of times we give this pressure to men to change, right? Like they should be supportive of women, they should be this, they should be that. But women also have to change.
Yes.
That is not where we are not focusing much in terms. Okay, I think we'll
Uh,
keep on discussing
no, no.
that.
Just
So,
can we give a minute or two to Ravi Teja? What he thinks on this topic?
Sir,
Please.
I realized whatever the things that Shavlin had caught maybe 10 years ago. And then I started, experimenting on my sister. I said, hey, live your life. I'll be backing you up. Let's see what's gonna happen.
Okay.
So I made sure that she understands there is nothing called society. It's just, social things that are people trying to play here and there. So you don't have to worry about society. First thing. If you want to contribute something to society, make sure you go to a person, speak about their uh, ailments or difficulties, help them out with that. Other than that, there is nothing called society. So here, if you try to pull called social terms and social reasons, conditioning, well, I'm here. I will be the person who is accountable for anything that happens to you. And yes, it worked out. And I'm also going to educate people regarding this, saying that society, once the society was really good, when it was like several centuries ago. But right now, the person themselves is carrying really a big pile of rotten thoughts and flesh inside them. So you don't have to worry about that. So if you're really courage enough to do something, it just takes one step. All you need to do is you need to raise your feet, take a one step. That lead is going to take everyone out of their miserability and atrocities. That's it. Simple. So yes, I know the struggle. I know what kind of male chauvinism, patriarchy that is happening in this uh, society. But all it takes is one step to come out of that. Simple. So that courageous step is what makes us a human, not a woman. We should. I'm never a feminist. I'm a humanist. So I speak in a perception of human because man and woman have equal difficulties to move on
Right,
with their
Ravi,
lives.
is this the sister who got married a couple of months back?
Yeah.
So you and she jointly set some goals. She achieved them, and then she got married.
Yes. So
Great.
it's not just that. She was like, "Why should I marry a rich guy? I know I love a
Okay.
person." So she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna marry this guy." So she was like, she had that clarity, and I was like, "I'll give you that 100% support. I'll speak to everyone and anybody who comes in the middle. Let me handle the situation." So she was like, "Okay, fine."
Good big
So
brother.
she's happily married right now, and she's
nice.
actually,
So,
she's gonna come home this Diwali and gonna have a big
Oh, okay.
bash.
First
very
Diwali
nice,
before
Ravi.
marriage. Very
Very
nice.
nice. So, Harshita has raised her hand. I didn't know that Google Meet had this option of raising a hand. So, Harshita, you wanted to say
They started
something?
recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an accidental raise of hand, but I really liked whatever
Right.
Ravi and Shaolin spoke.
Okay.
I'm almost 32. I'm not married, and
Great.
it was a long struggle to come to this stage, convince parents and things like that. But I think people need to do what they want to do rather than listening to the society.
So, yeah. I think Arnab. So we'll give the final word to Arnab and then move on to back to the magazine. Otherwise,
I'll quickly add
quickly.
one
Yeah.
sentence here. Completely agree with Ravi Teja, and that mindset is everything. And because I'm not in India, and I can understand there's a whole lot of cultural difference in how we see it here and how we see it in India. And India, I would say, tend to follow a lot of Western culture. If we can detach ourselves from following other cultures, if we can follow our own culture, we'll get back to what we were. Like Ravi Teja said, centuries back, we were perfectly an idol culture. Just be an Indian person rather than following or imitating a different culture. I think that'll bring us back to what we were. Yeah, that's it.
All right. I think yes. Let's go back to the hydrazine. Luna has joined. So before I come back to Luna and ask you a brief introduction, I just want to finish off the hydrazine. So this was the short story section. What we have is visual art. This time we have Christine narrating.
Sorry to interrupt you, Lavanya. Doesn't Revati ji have a piece there?
Yes, I'll come back to her. Let's
Come
give
back.
a chance
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Christine. So this is Christine's work of art. This is beautiful, and the series is called The Study of Annoyance, and this is oil and linen. So again, we are featuring it in two parts. This is the first part. This is series 1. So series 2 will be in the next issue. So we have yes. So Stephen, yes. Why don't you talk on behalf of Christine, since Christine is not here?
Yes, hello. Hi, I'm Steffen, and I'm the manager of Christina, but more important, I am also the husband of Christina. We have 4 daughters, and it was interesting to follow here the discussion on this thing with married and woman and man and how this all goes, because you hear a lot from the media about these debates in India, but then it's different when you are here online with you, and then you immediately this subject comes up. So 4 daughters, the oldest is 20, the youngest is 5. The daughters are often also inspiration for Christina to do her work. The study of annoyance. I put you a text here in the message, but I can also, I don't know if I can share something, I don't know. Your entire screen, if it's possible. Share now. So
you want to share something? Yes, I can stop sharing and you can share if you want.
Yeah, if it's possible. If not, then I would. Can you see something?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. So I don't know if I have to press something else. Let me see. I will press once more share, and then it says select window, meet.
No, there's an up arrow icon next to the hand icon. Next to the hand.
Allow. Now something is moving here. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Can you see something?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you see the screen that I see, then you see the picture of Christina right in front of her artwork. That's the current picture she took this year. She had a solo exhibition in Germany. And this is the text on the artwork itself. She, in addition from studying art at the academy, she's from Latvia. She studied art at the Latvian Art Academy for 6 years, finished as a magister. She also dealt a lot with philosophy. And her text about the artwork, she usually sings on them in English and Latvian, in her mother tongue. And Latvian is a Baltic language, not a Germanic language. And then sometimes the translation takes longer than to to do the actual text. But this is a text she wanted to share with you. Yeah, I don't know if I should read it or you can, if it's visible well.
Yeah, it's visible, Stephen.
Yes. So this is basically the text, and I also shared it with you on the discussion. Yes, on the chat. So now we can stop sharing. Just a second. Yeah. What I wanted to say is that Christina, with 4 children, she's obviously not only the housewife, but she is able to work in her studio in Berlin, and she also works in Potsdam and 2 cities nearby. And she's trying to expand. She participated this year, for example, on the Art Basel in Switzerland and also in Belgium. And next year she plans in the Netherlands, and this year also in Oslo in Norway. So that's something. And what I should tell you also, she is very proud and happy to be together with you in this HYDRAW zine, which is for literature and which is for poems. And personally, I wanted to add from myself, I found it very very good that you are bringing those 2 things together, which is not always the case. Very often you have only art magazine mainly or only literature magazines. Yeah, so I think this is a very good step. And she indeed was very happy to know from you, Lavanya, that she was chosen for this issue. Yeah, if you have a question, I'm hopefully can answer something. Maybe also to say that it's a series of 8 artworks so far, but it's still the ongoing series. She had and it builds on the previous series, which you can find on her website, Look How I Move, where a lot of our daughters are on this thing. But it's building on, and what is new also, this bright blocks, this block color, which you could see. If you could maybe, Lavanya, share back the zine with us, that we can see it, what the works that you had chosen. Yes. That's all from my side. Over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. So I'll just so I took I think 4 portraits. I think she sent me 8 portraits, and out of that I took 4 portraits as series 1. And I don't want to do all the portraits in one series, just to have the curiosity and so that it becomes more interesting. So this is about our visual arts section, and it's so nice to have Christine in this HYDRAW. I'm looking forward for the next
I
session.
see some resonance with Shikha's poem here, where everybody says I am good, but underneath there is no, the feel. I think that's what Stephen wrote in the chat, that on the surface there is no of people so truly full of meaning and pain. That's why we search for context. We want to escape from our reality, but not able to do so. So I got some idea about that in the painting, but I'm not like too much into painting, but it has its own grammar and understanding. So when Stephen wrote, it makes it much more clearer of this existential, feel that everybody goes through. We are existing, but what is possible, what we want, is not there, and then this gap is where the annoyance comes. So now I think I'll go back and see after this session the portraits once more, and I think it has a lot of any art, whether it's poetry or painting, I think you have to read or see it a couple of times or 3 times to understand.
Understand.
Right. Thanks for the our regards to your wife, Stephen. quite a good topic, and I'll go back and read them again or look at them again.
Yes. Thank you. I will convey and thank you for this feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And then we have our last section, HYDRAW special events. So we kind of put here all the special events that we do. And then reads of Q3. So they're pretty much exhaustive list, also some good reviews. So if you are looking what to pick up and you're confused, what who, which author should I read? So here there are so many options for you, and some good reviews. So you can always pick up a good book rather than being confused. So we also have a comprehensive review this time from Muralidhar and Parthasarthi on the poems of Pablo Neruda. And that is a very interesting topic. So please go on. So with this, we come to the end of the Zine. And we had such a long discussion that was really nice. But we did, I think Reti joined late. So Reti, if you're there, just
good evening, all of you.
Right. So Reti, we feature one of your stories. So how did the story happen? Do you want to briefly share?
It's such a very, very humble contribution compared to all that you have chosen. I feel really very, very minuscule in this big institution. I really admire both of you like nobody's business. Really, I've got a long, long way to go. I'm just nowhere in this thing. The members are all vibrant, Muralidhar, and so many people. I can't take all the names, but really, I'm honored to be one of part of this HYDRAW, and I look forward to improving my writing. This just happened. As you know, I am sending stories for that Story Mirror 52-week challenge, out of which 25 stories I submitted so far. And as always, Saturday 11:30, 11:50 at night is my deadline. That's how I'm able to make it. So that if I am able to spend more time, I think the quality of work will improve. I realize that, but somehow with the family responsibilities, it's just not possible. But still, I'm enjoying it, and I'm really honored today, Lavanya. And
hello. Okay. So thanks, Revati, for sharing with us. I mean, you already do a lot of things. You are so active at this age. You write. You do so many community programs and all that. So I think taking more time would be probably a little difficult for you, but we really appreciate what you're doing. You're an inspiration.
Thank you.
Thanks, Revati, for that. And that comes the end of the session of HYDRAW. And before we go back to our session, before we go forward on the session on D.H. Lawrence works, I would like Luna Joy to introduce herself. I think you're joining our event for the first time.
Hello, this is. Am I being audible to you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think I have joined the Google Meet couple of times before, but it has been a couple of months that I wasn't able to join. I think more than 6 months maybe. So before I used to come more to the in-person meets before.
Sushma, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was. Somehow when you started speaking.
No, when she came on video, I saw Sushma. Luna Joy kon?
Yeah. So I was just thinking, I know this girl.
Yeah,
I've seen her before. I've heard her before. Why is she Luna Joy?
I got a kind of a pseudonym these days, and I changed my Instagram handle also to Luna Joy. So it's kind of my mail ID as well. So I see the confusion now. But yeah, again, I'm Sushma to you all, guys. I'm the same old person, just with some new looks, and it's been so long, so you couldn't recognize me now.
I think the new look is looking great on you.
Thank you. I have been meaning to join the meets and all, but after the COVID and all the Google meetups, it wasn't being really possible for me to join. And I think there was one offline meet a couple of weeks or days back, and I was looking forward to that as well. but there were so many things, what do you say, piled up, and I couldn't actually manage to join up. But today, in the morning, I have seen this that there is a meetup again today, so I wanted to join. I kept the alarm this time so that, because every time when the Google Meet link is sent, I will be losing it. I'll be losing the track of time because I'll be seeing it in the night, 8 o'clock, and it will be the end of it. So today I wanted to join no matter what, and even for the short period of time. I don't want to miss you guys, and then I wanted to say hello to all the old people I knew before, like Ravi, Lavanya, Mehboob, and all. It was really very lovely to be with you.
Ravi is
Even
old.
no, not. I never said old. I said old guys. That means the people I knew before, not in terms of age or anything. And I see many new faces right now. I would really. I'm looking forward to meet all the people who are new to the group as well. And yeah, and today I have heard a lot about the women, the humanism, and all. And it was really empowering as well. I wish I am more prepared about all the topics and the giants.
Sushma, are you doing a PhD now or?
No. I have taken a gap year before, so now I am entering PhD. I have just given the entrance, so I'll be doing.
Long way to go. Okay, got it. The other thing is this month monthly meetups. Swapnil and I'm trying to hatch a conspiracy by doing a hybrid model in his house.
Oh.
So people outside Hyderabad can join online. Within Hyderabad, we'll have an in-person meet at his house.
Okay.
So he's already started cooking the dishes and all. So we'll see. Okay.
I think this is the second time in succession, no? Second time.
Right. The previous time, Mrudul and Ravi had come to Hyderabad. It was purely in person. This time we're trying a hybrid thing.
Okay.
Like with the big.
You're making us jealous, sir.
True. That's a part of people who are on the other side of the screen to feel jealous to come to Hyderabad to be in a person.
Right.
And I've already extended my invitation for you to come to Coimbatore.
One day will come, Revati, when you can travel through the TV and come to our room and then go back to your Coimbatore through the TV only. We're waiting for that, Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and all. So soon it will happen. Okay. So good to see you, Sushma.
Thank you.
Sushma is a very, very literature person beyond her years. I mean, she must not even be 23 years old. I don't know at this age, but she can give a lecture on Murakami and Nabokov and I don't know which other. I think you had presented Murakami only, Norwegian Wood.
Yeah, I have presented Norwegian Wood and also Christopher Marlowe in the classic meetup.
Right, classic Christopher Marlowe and the depth of her, the way she goes inside a book is way, way, way beyond her age. Truly a literature person. So,
thank you.
If you come more, we will learn more from you. Okay, Sushma?
Definitely. That's kind of you for you to say, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Back to Lavanya now.
So the hydrazine launch is over. I'll share the links later on. So I think we can start our next session. I think we should hand over the mic.
Right, 1 hour of 20 minutes. 20 minutes is 3 talks, right?
Yes.
By 7 we should be able to wrap up. Yeah.
So Shikha, what do you?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Shikha, and I'm going to be talking about D.H. Lawrence's first published novel it's called Sons and Lovers. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, who was D.H. Lawrence? D.H. Lawrence was a British writer. He was not just a writer, he was a painter. He used to paint with oil. He was a poet. He was a great short story writer. He also wrote plays and he did host of work. He took pride in the time that most writers were from privileged classes. Lawrence was born to a very poor family. His father was a miner in a place called Nottinghamshire in England. And D.H. Lawrence struggled with penury throughout his life. He called himself a professional writer, and he was derided for being a writer who wrote 1,000 words a day by a number of contemporaries, his contemporaries. So what we are doing right now as professional writers, writing 1,000 words a day or 2,000 words a day. I mean, he was doing it in, when as a young man. So in the early 19th century. This D.H. Lawrence is also a writer who is, lot of people didn't like him. I mean, if you guys have heard about Ezra Pound, Ezra Pound was a poet, and he was also the editor of T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. I'm sorry, am I making any sense? Hello?
Yes, yes, go on. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to be talking about D.H. Lawrence, Sun and Levels in a very contextual manner, because it's going to be my reading of Sons and Lovers and, his themes. So, I mean, Ezra Pound was very, uh, he didn't like him, and because he says that D.H. Lawrence brought in the low life into his literary work. Low life, yes, because he talked about poverty, he talked about the life that he was living. D.H. Lawrence, he was an honest writer, and I respect him for that. But I admire F.R. Lewis, who was a critic. Contemporary critic, a great critic that we people. I mean, I've done my MA English from Jamia Millia in Delhi, and I mean, I read a lot of F.R. Lewis because he was such a great critic, and the way he wrote about so many things. I mean, there's nothing that you can learn. I mean, you can learn so much from reading his writings. And then, of course, another great person who affected me a lot was, I've also mentioned, is Frank Kermode. Frank Kermode was also a critic and great writer. And Frank Kermode, and I mean, you cannot understand D.S. Lawrence, according to me, without reading Frank Kermode, and especially Frank Kermode, and also F.R. Lewis. F.R. Lewis wrote about so many other writers, and he was like great range. So did F.R. Lewis, Frank Kermode. So now, coming to D.S. Lawrence, this book, well, I would like to let you know that D.S. Lawrence was born in 1985, and he died in 1930. And when D.S. Lawrence died, he was just 44 years old, and he died a very poor man. And he struggled a lot. But his whole life, he wanted his novels, and his whole life was, his endeavor was to become an individual. Like we know about individualism, and we know about becoming an individual. And I would just like to tie it up to this young lady who wrote a short story on becoming an individual first, and then looking for a match, and looking for a man who will take care of you. So D.H. Lawrence's whole endeavor in life, and also through his novels, was, I think, this was like a great theme that runs through his life and as well as his novels. So now, what exactly is Sons and Lovers? Sons and Lovers was the first published novel of D.H. Lawrence. It was the third novel that he wrote. He wrote two more novels earlier, but this Sons and Lovers was the first one to be published. This novel was called Paul Morel earlier on, but the name was changed to Sons and Lovers. So I would like to now, tell you a bit about what D.H. Lawrence, instead of telling you the story of the novel, I would like to read what D.H. Lawrence wrote about this novel in a letter. So he says, it follows this idea: a woman of character and refinement goes into the lower class and has no satisfaction in her own life. She has had a passion for her husband, so her children are born of passion. Now, passion and heaps of vitality. But as her sons grow and she selects them as lovers, first the eldest, then the second, these sons are urged into life by their reciprocal love of their mother, urged on and on. But when they come to manhood, they can't love because their mother is the strongest power in their lives and holds them. So this is what D.H. Lawrence what he says to a friend of his, this is a letter, this is what I've read out his words. And this is actually what D.S. Lawrence's Sons and Lovers is all about. So it is focused on the mother-son relationship, and the mother is Mrs. Morel. The elder son, she has three sons. The eldest son is first very close to her, and this eldest son, he dies. I think his name is William or something. He dies. His name is William. He dies, and then she turns her attention to her younger son, which is Paul Morel, also the novel of uh, the novel. I mean the protagonist of the novel, and it is a semi-autobiographical novel, of course. It is written in an omniscient voice. So the writer, or the person who's narrating the story, knows everything. He knows what's going on. It's what is going on in the minds of the characters. So it's an omniscient kind of a narration in the novel. And what happens is that in the first part of the novel is very much focused on the mother-son relationship. The second part is more focused on Lawrence and his exploration of life and sexuality. There is a lot of sexual exploration that Paul Morrell goes through, and there are the other characters apart from other important characters apart from Paul Morrell, his mother, are the two women who D.S. Lawrence is intimate with. One of them is called Miriam. Miriam is a young girl who is basically she's a farmer's daughter, and she actually in real life she was a friend of the family, and she was living on a farm. And Paul Morrell actually knew her, and what he is describing in this novel, those incidences, most of them they did happen in reality. So Miriam is modeled on that real life character that Paul was intimate with, and and then there is Clara. Clara is a married woman who is separated from her husband, and she's a suffragette. Suffragette means these were feminists, who were fighting for women's rights, and they were talking about women's rights and all. And in the novel, Paul Morrell is working in a factory, and where he meets Clara. So, uh, and then he explores the sexual side of life with these two women, and he, of course, in what I feel now, in a very selfish manner, he he first, persuades Miriam to have a intimate relationship with him, and then he finds her very cold, and of course, Lawrence had his own very idiosyncratic kind of a take on sexuality, and he used to call it vitality, the language of the blood, which means the real man, the real person inside. He has this very strong ideas that he keeps on referring uh, to in the novel, in the novel. So yeah, yeah. So I got distracted by the chat messages. So 1 minute. Yeah. So these are the main characters. Clara and the other characters of one should be aware of course, D.S. Lawrence's. Paul Morrell's three more siblings. Two of them are brothers and a sister, and also Clara's estranged husband, and several others. Rest of them are not so important. But the first part of the novel is mother and her sons. The second part of the novel is Paul Morrell, completely taking over, and in the end, what happens is that the mother, she is diagnosed with having a tumor, and Paul nurses her in her last days, and then at the end of the novel, she dies. And what D.S. Lawrence again says in that novel that I was referring to, he says that Paul Morrell is left in the end naked of everything with a driftwood life. So this is how D.S. Lawrence puts it in a very nice manner. That this is what this is where the novel ends. Paul Morrell is completely, naked of everything with a drift towards death. So this is the um, how it, the novel progresses and how it ends. So I've talked about the novel, the characters. Now, coming about the themes of the novel. Themes are, uh, uh, there are people who are critics or people, writers and authors who are, given a lot of trying to understand the novel, and they've given it many names. It's been called a psychological novel. It's been called a Freudian novel because of the Oedipal love relationship, so called, between the son and the mother. And Paul Morrell, actually, I mean, he calls it. He uses this term, which is very. He says always. He mentions in the novel that Paul Morrell's soul seemed in attention to seemed attentive to his mother. So Paul D.H. Lawrence describes the relationship between Paul and his mother by using this term. Soul seemed attentive to his mother. So this is a very significant point, I think, according to me. So there is, and other audible this thing were also that, when Paul Morrell gets a job, his first job in that factory that I was in, a factory which makes these stockings for women. So he takes his mother out for a picnic, and the picnic is, and the outing rather is described almost like a date. I mean, and I mean, if you read the novel, I mean, this is why it has been called as an Oedipal novel. And during this time when D.H. Lawrence was writing, Freud was a very big influence at that time, and so and also England was being industrialized more and more, which was he did not like this. D.H. Lawrence was always very much disinterested in, he was very much against the industrialization of the country, his country. He was what D.H. Lawrence was interested in a very short sentences. He was interested in a sense of touch. He was focused on physical intimacy, and he wanted to restore the emphasis on the body, and he wanted to counter Western civilization's overemphasis on the machine. So these are, in a very short form, themes that run through almost all of D.S. Lawrence's works, which include his poetry, his short stories, and his later novels, which Mehboob and Lavanya will be talking about. They are very much present and in bigger forms, or more distinct forms in Women Love. Women Love is like very much about countering the Western civilization and all this mechanization, the coldness of mechanization, absence of touch. I mean, that novel can be, like really read from that point of view. I think that's according to me, I think that I read a long time back, but that is a very dominating theme in Women in Love. So, yeah. So these are the basic, like themes, like, themes in the novel, as I encapsulated in a very short this thing. And then, there are things like, and he called them, and the motives that he uses in the novel to, bring these themes out are, he calls them, vitality. He uses these words, vitality, language of the blood, and then he uses fire. When he is sexually aroused, he uses motives related to fire and flames flames um nature, even nature. Like, I remember when Miriam and D.H. Lawrence, when they are having, they actually live together for a short period of time, And they, and D.H. Lawrence wants to have a physical relationship with her, and she acquiesces. I mean, she says, okay, in a very, what's that word? Maybe I'm not getting that. She acquiesces. Uh, and what D.H. Lawrence, he talks about is, at that point, D.H. Lawrence gives a, he shows us, or he describes how Miriam wants, she goes to a flower and she cannot look at the flower, she has to touch it. And she touches the flower, and she not just touches it, she keeps on touching the petals, and she takes her time on it, and D.H. Lawrence is almost repulsed, Paul Morrell rather. Paul Morrell in the novel is repulsed by her, she says, he says that she's trying to consume the flower. Why is she trying to consume the flower? Why can't she, it's beautiful, but why can't she let it be? So he is extrememely repulsed by it. And in the novel, I mean, there is this chapter which, if you are interested, you'll be able to find it. So, the power of D.H. Lawrence is that when I read this novel for the first time, this became the most the image of the biggest impact on me, because I I felt so repelled by Miriam, just because of the way D.S. Lawrence, talks about her, and she wants to consume the flower. I was totally repelled by Miriam, and I was also totally repelled by Mrs. Morel, who's the mother. Um, Anyway, so the motives that he uses. So nature, he uses his nature. They go out into the wild and the clouds and the landscape. He is able to use that, the whole thing, the clouds, landscape, trees, everything, and to convey a, it's almost a visual kind of a film imagery or the film effect, he is able to convey that. When Miriam is touching the flower, you can almost feel the disgust that Paul Morrell feels, Uh, so, I mean, that shows the power of his writing. So, some of the other motives that he uses are, he uses the motive of the swing. The motive of the swing is used to show the on and off and the swinging nature of the relationship between Paul Morrell and Miriam. It's always on and off. Sometimes he's attracted to her, and then he's like violently repelled by her. So it's on and off, and so, and then another one is stockings. Like, he makes these stockings for women. He works in a factory which makes stockings for women. So we know feet are supposedly, according to Freud, very sexual, parts of the body, even in dreams. So stockings is something that covers the foot. So yeah, so he is working in that, and then there are some. I think there are some scenes in the thing when uh, he removes Clara's stockings, and so I mean these are something that you can look for and really enjoy, read, and maybe savor how he's used these motives. So this is it, and Paul Morrell's novel was Southern Lovers. Uh, was a great novel, and D.H. Lawrence also says that he called it a great novel, and that his story is the story of thousands of young English men, and that the corrupt mother-son relationship is a hereditary curse. This is what D.H. Lawrence talked about said about his Sun and Lovers after many years of writing it. That this is what I would what I really like about this thing is, this is a great first book about that D.H. Lawrence's first book that I read, and it made me very curious about his other novels and writings. I really liked his short stories a lot more than the other novels that he wrote, and uh, and then second point that I've also already mentioned is that it introduced me to Frank Kermode and Lewis, who were like wonderful writers. I wouldn't have come to know about them without have read D.H. Lawrence. Yeah, but and yes, and I was interested in Freud, and it after reading these novels and all, I also read a little bit about Freud and what his works. So yeah, one thing leads to the another, and that's how we come. Yeah, and then when D.S. Lawrence died at 44, he from TB. Uh, his the people, the learned men, they called him he was called a porn writer, a writer of porn, but then he was resurrected from the ignominy of being called a porn writer by some people. Aldous Huxley was a great, believer in D.S. Lawrence, and of course F.R. Lewis and Frank Kermode, who were like gigantic figures at that literary figures, whose point of view could not have been negated in the point at the time when he was in 1930s. So. And if you ask me, D.S. Lawrence is not a porn writer at all. I mean, people who think this is not porn, what D.S. Lawrence wrote is not porn. And he was a great writer. And yes, he was, according to me, he was trying to explore, how an individual should live. Should an individual just marry? Because he shows his other brothers, the two other brothers, they just marry because it's like convenient and it's expedient, makes them have an easy life. But D.S. Lawrence or the Paul Morrell in the novel, he's the only guy, who doesn't marry, and he just goes on a quest. So for me, D.S. Lawrence's Sons and Lovers was a quest for individuality, of course, definitely. More than, and individuality includes sexuality. Yes, definitely. You should be 100%. And I would suggest that everybody read Sons and Lovers. Thank you very much.
Yes. I think I like your conclusion and the next one. Go forward. So, anybody has any questions, or else I'll start with you. Yeah, Sushma, please go ahead.
From the book she had read, it was amazing, and the experience and everything she have mentioned has been too good in detail. I wanted to ask is if she have found any resolution for the Oedipus complex that he have narrated as the main theme of the book while reading it.
Who found resolution?
No, no. When you were reading the book, have you
They were,
found
yeah.
any resolution that D.H. Lawrence has mentioned as an end
No,
or
no,
in a
no.
climax or anything? Because it has been a
No, no,
problem.
no.
Yeah.
No, he did not write it as an Oedipal novel. They were people were interpreting it as an Oedipal
Yes, yes.
the theme to be a Oedipal this thing. But I don't think so. D.S. Lawrence wrote it as a novel on Oedipus complex at all. But
Yeah.
then he did mention this, na. See, he says it is a story of thousands of young English men that the corrupt mother-son relationship and is a hereditary curse. For whom the corrupt mother-son relationship is a hereditary curse. These are D.S. Lawrence's own words.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you
So,
have
so
said, do you want? Can I continue, member, or do you want to
yeah,
say
no. She says it's not about Oedipus relationship,
Uh-huh.
but
It is
quickly.
interpreted. There were interpretations of it. The
So
interpretation.
that scene about mother taking mother on a date for shopping or something, picnic. How far does he push in terms of language and narration that particular scene? Because he's giving allowance to be interpreted. See, if somebody
Yeah, he does.
interprets, there is allowance to be interpreted. Otherwise,
Yes,
they
yes.
wouldn't interpret it, right?
There was this very strong as I read out that his soul seemed in attention to his mother. That itself is like there are instances where his soul seemed in attention to his mother. His soul is always in attention to his mother. This is how D.H. Lawrence describes the relationship between Paul Morrell and his mother.
As a mental
But
thing, like, but does
and
he
he
put it
also but
like
he
he,
also no
no, no,
he never
what,
puts it like that. He touches his mother, and her feet are
like
paining. He
she's
touches the feet.
feeling the flowers and petals continuously. Aisa kuch beta, nothing like that, right? He doesn't push
That
like
is
that.
Miriam. That was Miriam, not
Ah,
mother. The
right,
mother.
in the flowers and petal scene, but in this picnic, does he push it like that? The narration, touch or
Mm, Mm.
Nothing like that.
No, I mean, as far as I can remember, he does touch his mother's feet because the feet are paining and all. But of course, there is no overt. As far as I can remember, there's no
Right. And
overt
then
sexuality.
in some
But
other section he says feet.
the thing is, he's not a porn writer. Now, Mehboob, please try to understand what I'm saying.
No. If there is some what do you call room for interpretation, in one scene,
There is room for interpretation, and that's why it has been interpreted by so many people as an audible
right.
novel.
No, I mean, I haven't read the book, but without the benefit of reading it, in one scene,
Yeah.
he says
There
he
is
touched
room.
the feet of his mother. In another chapter, he says feet are a symbol of sex. You're aligned with the
No,
interpretation
no,
there.
no, no. He doesn't say. He doesn't. He doesn't say. I said this is a feat according to Freud.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because you talked about stockings, then the feet thing came when you were explaining. It's not there in the
Stop.
book
Yeah,
actually.
Freud. Okay, I just said that Freud, not he. I mean, D.S. Lawrence doesn't say, of course.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Sushma, sorry, I cut into your question. Sushma,
I'm here.
yeah, you were
That's
saying
okay,
something.
that's all right. I just wanted to ask, like she had said that she did some extensive reading apart from Sons and Lovers with Freud, right? So I just wanted to ask if there was any resolution he had mentioned, because he said Oedipus complex has been a problematic thing in the relation between the family and the love and the marriage institutions.
No,
So
I don't believe it's an Oedipal novel at all. I said there are just
no.
interpretations, but I do not believe, so I don't have to find any resolution.
No. I haven't asked for any resolution. I'm just curious to ask if you have found a resolution when you were doing extensive reading about Freud.
No, I haven't found. It can be interpreted as a Oedipal novel, but for me, I mean, I just encapsulated my whole point in the end. As a it's a basically an individual search for individualism, and which includes sexuality. And actually, it was D.S. Lawrence was a very honest man, and he did have that kind of a very strong relationship with his mother, and maybe there was some physical attraction. Things that were there. Actually, there were those, points of attraction at some point. So, but then to just dismiss it as an audible knowledge will be a big, um, it's something that I would not. I mean, well, but it can be read as an audible novel, definitely.
Shika,
I mean, I'm not saying that
I
it can't.
think Sushma is Shika, I think Sushma is asking about your reading of Freud, not about this book.
Yeah.
The concept
Yeah, I mean,
itself, what Freud says.
what is she asking? I didn't get. Yeah, Freud is like, yeah.
I mean,
What is the question?
yeah, initially I asked if you have found resolution in the book Sons and Lovers, but later when you said it was the interpretation of Oedipus complex, I asked in the extensive reading you have done about Freud, you have found any resolution while
Yeah,
reading?
there is an Oedipus complex. I answered your question. There is a Oedipus complex in it, and the readings of D.S. The Sons and Lovers as an Oedipal book are actually correct. But what I also said that according to me, the book is much beyond the Oedipus complex. It is a search for one's own individuality. So I think I answered your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, but the thing is that we get stuck in the sex, and I think I'm beyond that, now I'm not stuck so much in the sex and was he sexually attracted. I think he might have been. A lot of men are attracted to their mothers, I mean, we all know that.
No,
And
but you concluded very nicely, Shika. If you take away all these
yeah.
layers of sex and Oedipus, it's about individuality.
Yeah,
What you as
absolutely.
an
And
individual. I
sexuality
think
is a
that's
part of our individuality. And it's just that in the Indian context, it is a bit difficult to understand because, there's this, I mean, it goes back to this whole thing about, virgin brides and virgin, let's be virgins before we get married and, things like that. So it is difficult to understand D.S. Lawrence. But then, D.S. Lawrence never shied away from the thing that he was a bit attracted towards his mother. He never shied it away from it, and I think he was honest enough to show and to write about it and show it in his novel as well. So that's why people, they were Anthony Burgess, who was a snob. I think not Anthony Burgess, but Ezra Pound, who was a snob beyond all this thing, he called it very low fiction, you know. But then D.H. Lawrence had the balls to talk about it when men who are attracted to their mothers, they don't have the balls to talk about it. They'll be like, oh, we are respectable. I'm sorry. D.H. Lawrence was not like that. Yeah, and he was a feminist.
Unfortunately, we grow up reading these as banned books, but they are not.
Chandra Lovers was never banned. Chandra Lovers was never banned. Lady Chatterley's Lover was banned.
Was banned, right? So that reputation is there.
And Lady Chatterley's Lover was based on, you know, again his wife, D.H. Lawrence's wife, having a relationship with another guy.
Right,
who was from the working class. Yeah, it was basically she was a German woman, aristocratic woman. She had this sexual relationship with another man, and D.H. Lawrence wrote this book about it. He wrote Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Great guy.
I mean,
he didn't shy away from examining his own life through his novel.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. He was called very honest, you know, in that sense. So.
Very honest. Like his attraction to the mom, his wife cheating him, and doesn't show any of that bitterness in his writing. I mean, I'm cutting the Lavanya. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lavanya.
He I think he shows a lot of bitterness towards Miriam, and you know he makes that's why the way he you know. I mean, as a 22-year-old, when I read this book, I really hated Miriam a lot. But now I feel that poor thing, she was just an innocent farmer's daughter, and you know, and in a way, she was like, you know, she was lured into sex, and she was thinking of some kind of marriage thing, and then he just like, okay, chal ho gaya, so you're a cold bitch, you know. That's what he told her in so many words. You're a cold bitch, and you know, mine is like fire and flames, and all that, which he experienced with Clara, of course. And there are a lot of racy accounts of sex between Clara and D.H. Lawrence, where he experiences the flames of it. So yeah, but then he's not, you know, he doesn't hide it. He doesn't say कि okay मैंने उसने Miriam को ऐसे करके छोड़ दिया है. Actually he shows it कि okay he says okay you are cold and he leaves her not. So.
Well, thanks, Shika. I mean, I think we can go on and on about D.H. Lawrence now that we got hooked into his writing. Thanks to you, actually.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And we were discussing something else. And suddenly in the meet, because it was just a quote that Lavanya said, I like this quote, and I wrote a poem about it or something about it. And then Shika started about D.H. Lawrence that we got hooked into it, and thus came out today's session.
Okay.
So I think Shika gave pretty much idea about D.H. Lawrence, who the person is. So I'm not going to dwell much into him, but I want to talk about this book, Rainbow, which I was reading. I started it long back. And like Mehu was just telling the incident how it started. So I want to tell you why I picked up this book. So there was this quote: "If I were the moon, I know where I would fall down." So this was a quote that I read in Stephen King's book Lizzie's Story, and I found it very intriguing, at the same time very romantic and passionate. So I had listed down at the time. I didn't know who D.H. Lawrence was before that. After I read that quote, my journey of reading D.H. Lawrence started. I picked up this book to read it. So what is the book about? What is the story about? So Rainbow is nothing but it is a story of 3 generations of the Brangwen family and shows how the love relationships of the Brangwens change against the backdrop of the increasing industrialization of Britain. So the first part of the story starts with John Brangwen, who falls in love with a Polish widow, Lydia. The next section is through the POV of Lydia's daughter by her first husband called Anna, and the relationship of her with her husband, Will, who happens to be the son of one of Tom's brothers. So basically, she married her uncle's son. And the last part of the book details the story of Ursula, who is the daughter of Anna and Will. And she is like a feminist at that time. So she wants to find fulfillment in her life. So she at first there is a lover, and then there's a same-sex relationship also with her teacher, who's Winifred. The character's name is Winifred, and her long love affair with Anton. But in the end, she's not fulfilled with either with Anton or with Winifred, either emotionally, physically, all that. But there is a promise at the end of the book. There's a promise of hope at the end of the book. That is why the title of the book, The Rainbow. A hope for love, a hope for humanity as a whole. So that's what the story of the rainbow is about. What I liked about it, number one, so Shikha was just telling that D.H. Lawrence was labeled by some of the writers as porn writer. And I can understand that why people would be calling him that, because there's a lot of sensuality, lot of things, a lot of writing about desires, lust, physical intimacy. But then his writing style is just poetry. So without mentioning about sex, he talks about it very lyrically, very fluidly. The whole entire book seems to be a sensual poetry. So definitely, I mean, people who like Shiko's fighting so hard, he is not a porn writer. He is not. And definitely the book is not about physical intimacy or desires, though it appears to. So you have to read within the layers of the book what is he trying to tell. And Rainbow is totally about that. It is about all these three individuals. It is about the relationship. It is how, as an individual, they feel about love, and they feel about their sensualities, their sensitivities, their insecurities. It is all sorry, it's all about that, but written in a very fluid, poetic style. And I think hence D.H. Lawrence works should be placed in a separate section together, because it's very tough. It's very tough to bring poetry in prose, number one. Number two, to deal with such complex issues and talking about sensuality, but not explicitly mentioning about it, talking about making love, talking about sex, but not explicitly mentioning it, and giving it a poetic tongue. I think that shows how powerful he is. I mean, his writing is beautiful. So I have taken some quotes. I'll be like reading it later on, and you will know why we say that he is not a regular writer. He is definitely unique and special in his own way. Also, the sensuality that he talks about throughout throughout the book, there is this common thing of finding your individuality through love, thinking that you'll have a fulfilled life through love, but at various phases in life, not having that equal love relationship, or not having that kind of physical intimacy with the partner, not having the consistency in relationship, and going through the turmoil and suffering that every relationship goes through. But what is interesting is D.H. Lawrence puts forth all these points not only from a man's point of view, but also through a woman's point of view. So I think it's totally gender neutral. He doesn't kind of has this, okay, he's a male, so he should be writing about men. No, he equally writes about the sensibility of women, and he writes it beautifully. You, for one instance, will not, identify him as a man or a woman. You just, I mean, it's just, I don't see any bias towards any type of gender in his writing throughout. The writing is so passionate, so full of poetry, full of intrinsic, that you totally connect with it. I mean, the emotions of that passion, it starts evoking in you. It's that powerful his text is. Another theme that I found, very interesting. So this is my likes as well, and also the themes. So there are so many themes. If you see, I've listed down around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 themes that run parallel, and you have to actually break the layers out and see through what he's telling read beneath the lines. So all the books that I have read as of now, I never read so beautifully such a best description of love to hate and hate to love. I would like to call this why, because you sometimes love a person so much, you're so much consumed, by that love, you actually start hating that person because you're so dependent on that person, and your life seems to revolve around that person, and you don't see any other thing in your life. You start to kind of hate that person. Also, the other way to look about at it is, in relationships, people usually grow so much insecure, uh, and probably the intensity they have in the starting, they don't have it. So, giving an example, like I said, the story is being told through three characters. So, the first one is Tom Brandon, who is young, who is reserved, who's very manly and handsome. And when he finds love, he waits for that love to happen for many years. And we are talking, uh, the world or the setting behind is a very like late 18th century, where it was just farming. There was no industrialization. There was no much communication between groups of people. Just some villages scattered over. Education, no basic education. Education probably was not a privilege at all. So people are mostly farming and mostly secluded, small communities scattered over. And he puts the brilliant in this background how Tom Brandwin falls in love, and he falls in love with a widow who already has a daughter, and he expresses their relationship so beautifully through poetry, like how they make love. This is all there, like their intimacy, physical intimacy, the way he sees his wife. There are a lot of repeating narration as such, that they are one. That the woman and the man is one. They are united through their love, uh, and without the woman, the man is mostly incomplete. You see this recurring throughout the book. Through the first character POV, to the second, when the story moves forward, and he keeps on talking about the same thing. But then the background has been changing. So slowly, education is coming over. Slowly, this ruralization is slowly turning into industrialization. People start interacting with other people. They meet some other people, and travel and all that stuff. And he introduces art through the second generation. So Will is basically Anna's husband. He is an artist, and he is a very religious person. At the same time, he's different from Tom in a way that Tom is a very reserved person. He knows how to control his sexual energy, but Will is totally opposite of him. Will is portrayed as a very dark person who is always consumed with his sexual energy, and he doesn't know how to kind of use that energy properly. So, as such, over his period of life, he's a totally dissatisfied person. He's in love with his wife Anna, who later on they marry. But before, there's a brief courtship of those two, who love each other passionately, and they marry. And for a brief period of time, they're very happy. They feel that this is what is life, this is what is love, and but slowly things start to change. Just after maybe 5 or 10 days of marriage, Anna is not able to even look at him. She doesn't like him at all. She goes very repulsive. I think this theme is very common. People growing repulsive in love, because too much of dependence of love, I think, is one of the underlying theme that D.H. Lawrence probably wants to portray. So she is kind of repulsive. And there's a lot of talk about satisfaction. So now that Will is a husband, he thinks a lot of times, why can't she satisfy me? Why doesn't she fulfill me? So being a man, if I go to her, she should be ever ready for me. She should ever satisfy for me. But Anna is not like that. Anna is a strong woman. Anna doesn't see like that. She's a very practical and sensible woman. And at the same time, she makes fun of Will. These two people who have bonded over the love, I mean, basically, we start to think that it was just fatal attraction, that's all. And later on, when you actually start living with that person and you try to see through that person, see through the person's soul, you really come to know what are his beliefs and what. So she feels that Will is really stupid in a lot of times, that his religious beliefs are nothing but orthodox. There is an example, there is one particular instance where Will keeps on explaining her. I mean, this is a reference to Jesus, some Bible reference, saying that the water turns into wine. And like Anna laughs at him and says, "How can water turn into wine? Water will always be water." So she is like that, and Will is a different person. So they have these clashes all the time. They hate each other, but then the attraction between them is so strong that it pulls back them together. So over the span of their love life, or you can say the married life, they have almost 10 children, and they just keep on, bearing children. And Anna kind of bonds with the children. And why I'm saying this is because the character of Anna, when D.H. Lawrence portrays that she's been growing from, like from a young girl to a woman, actually say that she's very strong, sensible, practical person. She ends up nothing but a woman who is kind of making babies, who doesn't really have anything else but to kind of become pregnant and then bear the children and all. That's all to it. And then he brings this stark opposition or contrast to the next generation, her eldest daughter Ursula, who again the mother and daughter doesn't go well. They always have these fights, they don't agree with each other. But Ursula is a much better version of her mother. And I think in some way, Grace Lawrence wants to bring this out that though sometimes, especially at that time, like women didn't want to do this, or a man don't want to do this, but they didn't know. They were never beyond that, what do you say, the veil of religion, the veil of society's, behavior, like what society expects from you. There's so much engrossed in that they can't think beyond it. They don't have sufficient courage to break those shackles and think and discover themselves. So the common theme in this book is actually exploring yourself. And the only individual that, in these three generations is Ursula, who at least manages to explore some part of her sexuality, some part of her individuality, which the previous two generations have failed. And one of the biggest reason could be that lack of education. And at that time, there was no urbanization, so people were not traveling much. There was no interaction. There was no much exposure. So I think this is also one of the theme in D.H. Lawrence. And I already said it. He deals with sexuality with a classic touch. I mean, I don't know why people were offended and why people have to call him names and all that, but he describes it in such a beautiful way that you don't feel that you are actually reading porn or you're actually reading it about sex. No. You feel that you're actually reading it something that is very important in life to understand and to reflect upon it. And I think that again is one of the major power of D.H. Lawrence's work. One theme is the struggle for freedom. Now again, I have already said that he is gender neutral. He doesn't show bias to man or woman, but in his own way, in the limitations that men had that time and the limitations that women had that time. What is their struggle of getting freedom? Freedom from many things actually. Freedom from love, freedom from relationships, emotional strength, then freedom from religion, spirituality. I mean, like at that time, the church was so much, what do you say, it was so much rooted. The society was very conformist. So, and there was nothing they could do. Even though they wanted to, have freedom in their life, they were stuck back. Again, religion and spirituality, overall, I mean, again, see, when you start reading and you think, oh my God, why is this guy always talking about about the sensual feelings, about desire, about lust. It's not like that. He mixes all that with religion and spirituality. So, in a way, when Shikha was saying that it is not about all this, it is, or Mehboob was saying that it is all about individuality. And our individuality is not only made up of our sexuality, but also about our beliefs, about our spirituality. One of the main areas of what we are is definitely the religion that we follow and how we see spirituality. So all that he brings it up at very ease, and he kinds of the characters comes very strong to us. We we do want to hate the characters in some way, but we cannot because we know they're helpless. And at some point of time, we build this connection with the characters, and we ask us the thing like like when I was young, or when I was going through this particular stage of life, I wanted to explore some of the things. Exactly, this is how I behaved. The only difference at that time I understand is that we have now much more sources of knowledge, sources of literature. You can read, you can watch, you can understand. Think about a time in late 18th century, there was nothing. But D.H. Lawrence could think, could evaluate, could reflect all these things. And I think what we are writing now as writers is no match to the writers of those classic age, because they're way ahead of us without internet, without any references. So really beautiful work by these, and that's why when we talk about modern authors, we have to be a step further from them. And that's how we can say that we are writing the progressive writers. Otherwise, we cannot call ourselves progressive writers. So, anyways, that is one of the themes, and like I already said, conformist society. This theme also runs parallel along the book. How society was at that time and how people were afraid to break the shackles of society. They knew they are not like that. Like example is Will, who has his dark passion, but he can't do anything about it. He's dependent on his wife. He knows it is wrong. He wants to kind of uh, accept with that, but he cannot. He is just shadowed by all the society rules and all. And comes the Ursula, the strongest character, and I'm just thinking at that point of time, like in 18th century and early 19th century, talking about the same-sex relationship, how difficult it could have been for D.H. Lawrence to write. Whether he has written it from his own experience or it was an imagination, I am not sure. But he writes it beautifully in a way that you don't take offense to it. I mean, society probably at that time and even at this time is very judgmental towards such people. And Ursula is the third, like the third section of it is all through Ursula. How, as a woman, she wants freedom. She doesn't want modern Ursula. She doesn't want to get married because she thinks marrying will only, curtail her freedom, and she's not sure what her sexuality is. There's a lot of confusion about her sexuality because it starts with Anton, her cousin or some distant friend, and then he goes to the military, and then she's going to college or school, and she kind of falls in love with her teacher Winifred. Uh, the character is Winifred, and Winifred is very much in love with this woman, and the courtship kind of continues. They both are always together and all, but then say it doesn't move forward. Basically, there's no relationship curve. I mean, what I mean to say is there's no success to that relationship. They cannot tell to people that they are in love. And Winifred marries Ursula's uncle. She settles in life with the uncle. Of course, not happy, unsatisfied, delivering a child, and Ursula is also totally unfulfilled. And then she thinks probably Anton is the person for her, and her doomed love affair continues with Anton. Again, she's not fulfilled with Anton. Anton proposes to her. He waits patiently for her. But she likes the beauty of the relationship, but she doesn't want to get tied up with the relationship. And she does not accept Anton. She does not accept the marriage. Uh, and there are many things in the end. But what happens is then, after she rejects Anton's proposal, she thinks she's pregnant now, and then she doesn't know what to do. how to handle the situation. And she writes a letter to Anton saying that if I'm carrying your child, would you accept me? And then there's a letter from Anton saying that I'm already married. And that's where she's like very depressed and crestfallen. D.H. Lawrence keeps it very open. He doesn't say what happens to the child, whether she's really pregnant or what happens to her and all that stuff. But the story ends with a hope. She sees a rainbow. There's an ending lines in Wikipedia, the most where everywhere it's mentioned. So she sees a rainbow, and the industrialization age has started, and she thinks that there's a hope to for herself. There's a hope for her love. There's hope for humanity as such. And that's where the story ends. So, like Sushma was asking a question, did you find a resolution, or does the author gives a resolution? So there's no resolution. I didn't speak anything much at that time, but I just wanted to say that I don't think D.H. Lawrence is talking about resolution anywhere. He doesn't say anything about what is right, what is wrong, but he talks about how an individual should explore her or his own individuality, be open minded, and accept this sexuality, whatever it is, same sex, bi, males, and understand that sexuality is also a part of life. I think that is what is the major theme that he, according to my interpretation and understanding, that is what he wants to say. So this is about the themes and likes overall. Dislikes, what I did. I don't say I didn't like it, but what some of the readers can find it is that too much exaggeration. I mean, like the text is sometimes it's so much exaggerated that it feels it's almost a hyperbole at some places. And sometimes there's a lot of excessive description. I felt, I mean, I'm okay. I like um, extensive description. I like beautiful narrations. But some readers might take it, a little boring with the same thing repeated again and again, so much of excessive. So you could have used a good editor and lengthy, of course. I mean, so these are just the dislikes which the readers would find. For me, it was a beautiful, insightful, soul-searching read. So I said, like in the start, I would like to read some excerpts so that you get that tinge, or you understand the flavor of his writing style, which is really very different. So the first one goes, this was what their love had become, a sensuality violent and extreme as death. They had no conscious intimacy, no tenderness of love. It was all the lust and infinity, maddening intoxication of the senses, passion of death. This is literature, purely literature, and no person after reading it will definitely tell that he is some low type of writer, at least in my eyes. The next excerpt that I would want to read is, and in this state, so this is basically told through Ursula's POV. And in this state, her sexual life flamed into a kind of disease within her. She was so overwrought and sensitive that the mere touch of coarse wool seemed to tear her nerves. With that excellent writing, I think I almost come to the end of my presentation. I just love the bold writing of D.H. Lawrence's style of handling complex issues with elegance. There's a certain lyrical, poetic way to his narration, which is really, it's just his powerful writing. Anyways, and I think Nebu already said in the starting, I was so inspired by that one line that I almost wrote a poem based on that. So definitely I would recommend reading D.H. Lawrence. Be patient, take it slow. This is not the type of reading that you should, consume it fast and fast. You have to take it slow, understand word by word, and see what he's trying. There are much deeper themes in his writing. So that is what I wanted to say. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Thank you for listening to me patiently.
Okay, three generations, sexuality cutting across would be quite a read.
It's quite a read.
We have to take it like 100 Years of Solitude. Shikha wants to say something.
Yeah, well, I was saying that I read it a long time back, and what I liked about it is I remembered the novel, yes, and Ursula, yes. Ursula, yeah. Thank you. I really enjoyed.
Thanks.
मतलब लावण्या ने आपको सिनेमा दिखा दिया बुक का.
हाँ मतलब I'd forgotten. I read the book and I forgot it I just forgot it. So now when she mentioned that, I could remember, and I remembered Ursula. And then Ursula is also a character in her D.H. Lawrence's next novel, Women in Love.
Yeah, I read somewhere that Ursula's story continues in Little Women of
Yes,
Love.
yes,
Women
yes,
of Love.
yes.
I do want to
Women in Love. Women in
Women
Love.
in Love. So I do want to continue
Yeah.
reading that book just to see,
That's a very complex novel.
Actually, Shikha, I was asking Shikha, which book should I take up? Lady Chatterley's Lover or Women in Love? And Shikha told me Women in Love is quite dense, complicated hai thoda. So you do Lady Chatterley's Lover and then go to Women in Love as a reader. And so it will be a bit, overwhelming to present it as a book in this session.
Yes.
So I took her advice and I read Lady Chatterley's Lover. I don't know. It is 7:08 now. I tried to kind of speed it up and do it in a few minutes, which is very what do you call injustice to a great book. You're able to see my screen? Can somebody confirm?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Yes.
So right now, this book is after read that it's not about her lover but herself. Right? I don't know. It's curiously titled Lady Chatterley's Lover, but Constance, Concy, or it is called Connie or something like Constance. The whole book you can boil it down to a character arc, right? In every book, you'll see a character arc, how a main character or protagonist transform from the beginning to end in terms of heroism or some kind of goals or journey or flaws or inner fears, how they have overcome. So there is a character arc through the journey of the protagonist. Now, this book is nothing like that. It's the out and out the sexual arc of a sapiosexual lady, Constance, right? And uh, who can't have children with her husband, right? And becomes pregnant with a lower class farm worker. Now, this is the whole story can be boiled down to this. Now, if you want the plot, both Constance and Clifford are from aristocrat family. Think of some rich upper class family, and the guy loses his body from the waist down in by parts when he goes for World War I. Comes back from World War, can't have children, so he gives permission to his wife to have a son, so that the family will continue as inheritance. His big rugby hall or something can be inherited, right? All that is fine, but when that lover is from a lower class, he changes his attitude and refuses to accept the child towards the end when she becomes pregnant with him, and the ending is kept open. The lower class farm worker Mellors goes away to some other place, London, I think, and she asks Clifford for a divorce. He refuses to give divorce, but doesn't want to accept the baby of Mellors as his heir. And we don't know what happens then. She goes to meet the guy, and it's kept open-ended. Of course, it reminded me of some stories in India also, where I think Vamsam in Telugu, something about Vamsh, where uh, continuing the dynasty is more important. So when a son dies, the old man actually has relationship with the daughter-in-law to bear a son. So we have such stories across in various cultures, the movies, Telugu movies and novels, etc. what is uh, good about this book is it is unapologetically how Constance has changes over her attitudes towards sexuality and sex. They don't put any other. I mean, D.H. Lawrence doesn't put any other, norms or mores. It's unabashedly, unapologetically about the sexual journey of this lady, right? So, at the beginning of the novel, when before she gets married and has sexual relationship with some people, they, she's shown as somewhat docile from a sexual angle. Like the man is more dominant. Like see the imagery of D.H. Lawrence. She withholds her orgasm until her lover comes, gets his orgasm, and then she gets her orgasm. And in the middle, when the man she falls in is Mellors, the farm worker, she has orgasm together with him. And in the later part of the novel, towards the end, when they again make love, she does for the act of physical intimacy, not for gratitude, thanks, just for the pure body enjoyment. That's the way she transforms over the novel. So, uh, what did I like? I mean, there's so many things. Like this first point, I think Lavanya already alluded how greatly from a woman's POV, how effortlessly Lawrence writes. Uh, I mean, it, it is fabulous. Actually, it's like he has studied the society. He knows the women around him so intimately, so well that he actually writes the women POV very nicely. And now that Shika has told that the idea of this book and Sons and Lovers has come from his own life, no wonder he's able to portray such fantastically the female character POV. There's a lot of layers that he winds through the journey, the sexuality journey, and particularly chapter 4, there is a, good discussion about industrialism, capitalism versus socialism. Are the Bolsheviks good? There are allusions to um, Socrates, Buddha, Jesus, um, Pluto, and other philosophers. Now, the in why I say sexuality and sex is shown in all the dimensions is the in that particular context of love making, how it is expressed and conveyed is different, right? So in one particular act, when Constance uh, is out in the forests, Clifford, who's like her husband, starts describing the flowers and leaves, the nature, and she doesn't like it, gets angry upon him because the nature reminds her of her lover, Melors, right? So she doesn't want any words. Words don't disturb the whole my or reverie through words. In another scene, when they have great lovemaking, and she wants Melors to say something. I mean, she's in that mood for words. And Miller says like, no, we already made love. What's the use of words? And she doesn't like it. And towards the and in one more scene when they make love in the forest, they get a bit wild. Like he brings flowers and they decorate their private parts and so on and so forth. So there is so much. There are there are so many dimensions around the sexuality of individuals in regards to words, the feel, how they do it before and was. All those are like very nicely in a non-pornographic way. Lawrence takes us through the journey, and he clearly shows that sex and sexuality are central to relationships. Other things can, come and go or uh, ebb and rise and so on. But the journey of the life of an individual centrality is based on the their sex and sexuality. Um, Here are some things I noted. The language is exquisite in some parts, and philosophical. I think it is too small that it's not visible. But D.S. Lawrence also talks about the mind and body issue philosophically, and people have given too much importance to rationality and intellectuality. And I think it's written here. Yeah. Uh, 1 second. On page 52. Let me go to the other screen once, and maybe I can find that. Yeah, here you go. Real knowledge comes from out from the whole corpus of consciousness, out of your belly and your penis, as much as of your brain and mind. The mind can only analyze and rationalize, set the mind and the reason to cock it over the rest, and all they can do is criticize to make a deadness. In fact, it kind of says that enjoy the mundane and physical things, not just the intellectual parts of the brain and mind. Enjoy this world as it is. And on the right side, you can see discussion about capitalism, Bolshevism, and so on. So there is intellectualism right from the start because Constance doesn't like ordinary beauty and all. She likes. She's attracted by the intellectuality of the man. That's how she actually marries Clifford. There's no dumbing down of uh, the reader. Even though it's about sexuality uh, and all the connotations around that, the industrialism that actually affected human relationships, philosophy, and so many things are interwoven into that, right? What I didn't like it was that there's nothing to look forward to, right? It's like right in the middle of the book, you know that she found in the farm worker and how she keeps his secret and kind of tries to fake that she is pregnant with some guy from Italy, an aristocrat, but the lie is caught. Uh, you read the book, but it's not a deficiency. I can understand because the nature of the book is to write about the things not being written in that era. So there is a lot of life internal to human beings, to our consciousness, identity, and the sexual behavior of society. So I think this is minor. There's nothing like you either look forward to what happens, who's that. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Just read in he's describing Lady Chatterley's lover from the dimension of the producing a child. Um, So what I'm thinking after reading this book and this has changed is you really don't have to follow the Western structure of a good opening or a protagonist to have mighty goals uh, and have a ऐसा कुछ नहीं. You can just the man and wife agree that she can have a child and have inherit the uh, property, and she finds lower class somebody, and the class distinction comes. So how she doesn't wade out of it. It's kept like open ended. In the first few lovemaking scenes are pretty good, like what we in particular Lavanya wrote were God's bubble. We can still adapt them for the current times. The last towards the end, it becomes very raw and explicit about F words and the P word and the actual like a semi-porn kind of word moaning and all that he shows. So for those of us who want to describe lovemaking without going into physical acts or body parts, I think the first few are like gold reference to look at them and how he wrote without being even going towards semi-porn. So I think that's quickly not proper justice to the book, but because in the interest of time, I had to kind of rush it. There are so many things to say in particular this book. So I stop here. Okay, Shikha, you had something
Yeah,
to.
thank you for putting it so nicely, beautifully, actually. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree with you. I actually agree with you because I had read this book long time back, and I really agree with you. The way he uses nature, and I remember that scene where they use the flowers and they decorate their private parts with flowers. Uh, and also, one thing that irritates me about Lawrence's writing is that he takes things to the extreme,
Right.
and that starts grating on you,
Right.
Yeah.
That's
He's a good editor. He did it at that
He
time.
needed a good editor. Yeah, absolutely.
right. So give me just 1 minute before I hand it back over. Uh, the page where it all comes through is in the short summer. I wanted to show how the character is. Okay, so one last time. Right, this is where it all culminates. How she transforms that the pure act of lust and physical intimacy is central to us. After a very passion-filled lovemaking, here is the paragraph that kind of summarizes the journey of Christians. So in the what did I do? In the short summer, she learned so much. She would have thought a woman would have died of shame, instead of which the shame died. Shame is fear, the deep organic shame, the old physical fear which crouches in the bodily roots of us and can only be chased away by the sensual fire. At last it was roused up and rooted by the phallic hunt of the man, and she came to the very heart of the jungle herself. She felt now she had come to the real bedrock of her nature and was essentially shameless. She was her sensual self, naked, unashamed. She felt a triumph, almost a vainglory. So that was how it was. That was life. That was how one really was. There was nothing left to disguise or be ashamed of. She shared her ultimate nakedness with a man, another being. Here she's not just talking about the physicality of it, but the emotional act of enjoying physical intimacy without any layers of love or give and take or keep on, just purely unabashedly enjoying the body, right? So um, and that's where she kinds of comes complete, like enjoying the act for the act itself, nothing else, no baggage. So, and that kind of takes the journey from a girl in premarital sex who actually controls her orgasm so that the guy comes first and then she holds her with herself. See how much thought and muscle control is required for that act. How much she is pandering that the man should be seen as to be more enjoying or dominating. And see this scene, this description I gave. She found herself, she enjoyed it shameless without bearings attached. And that's what I like, that life is not just about a journey of your career, right? A journey of your the way you physically grew and did work out or help for your education. There is a sexuality journey also that's not uh, that everybody has, but it's not largely unsaid, unexamined, untalked, and that is what Constance does for us. And D.H. Lawrence says that those are also stories. Those are also stories. It's just not about hero slaying a villain or uh, keep becoming successful by building a big company or a successful businesswoman or fighting the cops. The 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 discovery of your own sexuality, and that as the purest point of individual esteem or individuality. I think it really blew my mind away. I think we can talk a lot about D.H. Lawrence. Shikha, did you raise your hand again? I thought I saw. Or you wanted to say something?
You mute. Shikha, you're mute.
Well, Lady Chatterley's lover has like what is called phallus worship, So it's like it's basically phallic worship. Who brings her to the recognition of her sexuality? It's a phallus. So the man who she has sex with, that this thing, he's basically he's a symbol for a phallus, actually. I think at a this is what I've read about it, and so
Right.
it's
That imagery is there.
it's a kind of it's a kind of phallic worship, which he's like, which is also in tantra, and it's got this whole well, I mean, we do know phallus worship is like, it is beyond Christianity and all that. So there's no phallic worship in Christianity, but it is there in Hinduism. Yeah.
Right, in a couple of places where Clifford is talking about the flowers, or Mello's talking about nature, she leans against a tree. I mean, very gently. The tree, the symbol of phallus again, the man's penis, and they are with the nature. She's like leaning against and trying to enjoy the tree, which is a symbol in that scene for a phallus. So I saw both subtly. He conveys the that she's looking for what she thinks is sexual at what point and all that.
I also think society always judges when women tend to show that they enjoy the whatever act. So, and this was like what, 18th or 19th century. So, if you talk openly or you show or you whatever, like she kinds of withholds it and all that stuff. So that is mostly to do with people calling women as promiscuous. That could also one of the reasons that she was like that. Later on, she probably understands that all this really doesn't matter. So it's not only, I don't think it's just I mean, I don't agree with you as phallic worship, but I think it's more to do with the baggage that the society imposes, especially on women at that time. And it's true almost this way.
No. The thing is, the constant reference to the penis to convey something is there throughout the book, not just in the sexual act. Right? Life is not about mind and consciousness. It is about the penis and belly. Means what? I mean, he's using that word many times in the book to kind of hint. I mean, it may not be at that point going all the stage up to a tantric this thing, but the experience of Constance to keep that as a focus item. See, if you look at Jane Austen, it's all about marriage. You got, and if you read some other author, it's all about getting rich, make a lot of money. Yeah, but it's all about sensuality and sexuality only throughout the book.
Yeah.
That is common.
Unapologetically from a woman's point of view.
Yeah, that
ऐसा
is
नहीं कि मैं
common
माँ
in
बनूंगी,
DH.
बेटा वाइफ करूंगी, उनके
See, वो
husband
भी
को
है.
कुछ
Even
नहीं
that,
है.
no, even that is there in Rainbow. So this is, let's talk about Anna,
As a
right?
focus
So she
item.
is like that. Yeah, as a focus item. It's her motherhood. But even though she's passionate, it's there. So like you said, it's all dimensions. So this theme is common throughout D.H. Lawrence's books. But he gives a different dimension in each story. I think that's what he tries to accomplish. Anyways, I think it's a good read. I mean, definitely one book of D.H. Lawrence people should read just to understand the depth he brings into all this individuality. I think it was really a nice
I mean,
session.
I do think as to what I heard from Shika and you, Lady Chatterley's Lover is a more gentler introduction to D.H. Lawrence's world.
No, it's more
No?
fierce. Because Rainbow, there's not at all mention of such words at all. It's all poetic. So you understand that
but
you're talking about passion, you're talking about desire, you're talking about making love.
But I am
there are
saying,
no
I am
words
saying
direct as
three generations, lyrical and poetical descriptions Thoda, I think maybe it should be a second book. I think if somebody wants to get into D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterjee is gentler and simpler, exposition wise, narration wise. It kind of flows nicely. Maybe I don't know. The Rainbow is might also be a good
Yeah,
thing, but three generations of poetry will not, be a easier read to start with. That's what I'm saying. Probably it is. I haven't read Rainbow. Maybe it is equally, gripping and attractive like but really enjoyed. I mean, somehow we discovered D.H. Lawrence and had this session. So I think I do continue with Two Sons and Lovers and The Rainbow also sometime this year. So
that comes to my questions. Anybody else has any questions?
Sushma wanted to talk, say something.
Yes, I'm here. Just give me a second. Hello, Mahbub.
Ah,
Are you able to hear me now?
yes, yes, very much loud. Good, go ahead.
Uh, I haven't known that the theme of today's meet was about D.H. Lawrence, so I thought I would speak about Thomas More. Uh,
Oh, okay, okay.
but if that's okay, I would try to brief it in 5 to 10 minutes so that it won't detract the theme of D.H.
10,
Lawrence.
10 minutes should be a bit long. Yeah, 4, 5 minutes you can.
Yeah, 4 5 minutes I would do that.
Go ahead. I
Can you
think.
just hold on for a second?
Mhm.
మాట్లాడకండి. Hello.
Yes, Sushma.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. So I wanted to speak more about Thomas More, and I wanted to start with his little biography that he was a Protestant before. He was at a time where there was too many religious wars in Christianity itself. And one of the famous line that he said when he was being executed there was the king's that he was a king's servant, but also the God's first. So he was in between the rally of the monarchy and also the Christianity. And while being a service to the king and to the nation and all, he had written one book called Utopia that had started the literary genre of Utopian literature. So I must say he is the pioneer of this kind of genre. That's why I wanted to speak up a bit about it. So to brief about the book Utopia in just 2 to 3 minutes, we must say that I really appreciate Thomas More for penning down this beautiful book because we always have this imaginary place in our head. We always think like this place, this society isn't for us. We have a place where we want to be. So Thomas More had also felt the same, and he had written Utopia with the imagination he had at the time. So being in a society where there were so many religious disturbances and political upheaval, he had written more like utopia where there is political stability, safety, and also there is no pressure on religion. He highlighted all those things. He tried to solve all the problems that were happening at that time in the book of Utopia. So kind of giving a literary facts about utopia is that this word is derived from the Greek word euthopes, meaning it have two different meanings for euthopes in Greek word. That is either no place or good place. So that means what we have in our imagination is doesn't exist at all, which is no place, or it is such a beautiful place. I really like how he termed the word utopia with two meanings in and itself. So that's a very clever, technique that he had used there. And now what he says is that utopia was usual before was part of a land, but there was a general called utopus, and he had divided, he had cut a part of land and he made an island, and he secluded that island from rest of the world, and that island is utopia. So it is cut off from the world, and in that utopia everything is like perfect. So be it family, magistrates, politics, religion, marriage, everything. And so some of the things that are highlights of utopia is that uh, there is no money. So basically, money is not a means of work or a means of bargain. There's no bargaining system as well. It's like communal thing for everything, be it housing, goods, commodities. Everything is just cultivated as part of community and is taken as part of community. And the work is being held as utmost important. Everybody should work 8 hours a day. So that, and the gambling, the leisure activities, dicing, and all these things were called as illegal. They aren't allowed, as there was so much of fun going at that time. He made sure Ethiopians doesn't have so much fun. So all these things were banned at the time. And also um, the men, and he also gave a lot of criterias about when the men should marry or the when women should marry, and how they should come together and how they should form an ally and how the family is formed. And now here the 10 families, 30 families choose a magistrate called Cyphogrant, and again the 10 Cyphogrants and the 30 families under every Cyphogrant choose another magistrate called Tranibor. So that's how the administration working was happening at the time. And that was marvelous. But the interesting fact is that these people doesn't like wars at all. But despite the hate towards the war, they had strong military system, because even though you don't like war, you may get the war, so you have to be prepared. So these people never wage war against. And also there is no prison or cell kind of thing in this Ethiopian island. And so, but will there be no offense? There will be offense, but there are so many crimes that are happening, like and all. But the thing is, slavery is being treated to give a positive reinforcement or a negative reinforcement to change the behavior of the person, rather than imprisoning them and just taking the life away from them. So criminals are usually entreated to the slavery rather than that. So that is one thing. And also when we come to religion, so now the question is that how the slaves are coming into the picture. So what kind of crimes? So basically two types of crimes are there. One is tolerated, second is not tolerated. When anything that is not tolerated is put to death, there is no means of other way for them to go around. But some of the things that they tolerate is that they either they are criticizing other people's religion, or they are not working, or they are being a burden to the society. So these types of malicious activities are treated with slavery. Anything beyond that is they are doing treachery to the country or they're killing a people, everything is put to death. So there is no middle way for them, either it's slavery or this. And one of the things they have also done is that the religion. He discussed a lot about religion, and in that he had said beautifully at that time. This book was written around 1500s, and at that time he had written about religion in such a beautiful way that religion shouldn't be constrained to one individual. The faith is open to everybody in all forms. And he said, and in this utopian city, if anybody restricts or criticize other people's faith, they are treated with slavery, or it is treated as sin or illegal. So every person's faith should be respected and appreciated. So there are all kinds of religions, but not our religions like Buddhism, Islam, or Christianity, but usually there was more paganism at the time. So sun, moon, Greek goddesses, gods and goddesses, Romans, so those kinds, and also infinity power like universe. So those kinds of things were there at the time. So all these things were there, and here in this book, More himself comes into the picture and discuss the events around that. And so he discussed with his friend and one fictional character named Hyplody. So Hyplody is the one who discovered this utopia and explores around and comes into the picture and says about all this. Wow, this is such a very secluded island, but very perfect in one way. So he explains all this to Moore and his friend Peter Giles. So they were like, "Is it a good island? Like it seems so perfect, the administration and everything, but again there is no consigns to an individual. It's like everything is preordained in the government, and you just have to follow which is not so good for the individual intellectuality or freedom. So that was the question he leaves to the readers at the end. So are we really trying to form a perfect society, but in the way are we destroying the individualism or the creativity of the individual? So that how the story ends. I just thought it I wanted to share this book with you guys because it's such a beautiful one to portray our imagination of a good society, but how it also, how every good society we portray have a negative aspects to it. So having this book being the pioneer of this utopian literature, I thought it would be a good recommendation to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Sushma. In fact, every book guides us to something better, good. In a way, most books are utopian, that
Yeah.
good fights the evil and they lived happily ever after and all.
Yeah.
So, what attracts people or some readers is dystopia, the opposite of utopia.
Yeah.
All this Margaret Atwood
True,
and
true.
the road by
Susan
Mac-
Collins.
no, the road by post-apocalypse
Okay.
literature. I think McCormack, right?
Okay.
So, in a way, every book has one quality of a utopian, society, that there is law that works, love
Yeah.
wins, good beats the evil.
True.
That is all like a there in utopia,
True, true, true.
right?
Yes.
So, if we are saying, even if we created utopia, there will be still be, deficiencies is there.
Yeah.
Um, I think
It's
there's something that can be explored in terms of futuristic, scientific. Suppose you colonize Mars,
true, true.
there
It's
also
like
these things will appear, or if you go underwater and create cities there,
true.
there also you start from scratch again. All these divisions and unhappiness will come. So
True.
there is never anything like utopia. Maybe the biblical heaven.
Yeah.
That's the only
It's
thing
like
actually.
no matter how much and how many things you have put in into perfection, there will be something, the
Right,
slightest mark of
right.
disgrace that takes
But
you off.
but then think about it. If you put a poet's hat, right,
Yeah.
and then say heaven, everything is
Yeah.
good, angels and milk and
Yeah.
honey. How boring it is.
Yes. Yes.
Who wants to hell is more vibrant, burning clouds, oil, everybody is like dipped in, punished, beaten, it's
True.
colorful,
You
fires.
sound you sound more like Milton.
Oh, I didn't know about that, but I just saying,
Yeah.
utopia is like that, very good
True.
to imagine, but boring place actually,
True.
something
True.
like
Yes.
that, right? So,
But
all right.
it's like it's more like our mind sometimes becomes kind of a utopian novel,
Right,
because whenever we feel alienated in our society, we think of always a society
that,
where it's perfect for us.
right, and it,
It's
and
like,
it and it's not there, won't be
yeah,
there,
definitely
right?
no place at all. Yeah.
It won't be there, right?
True.
And then utopia or heaven,
Mhm.
uh, you'll be like with very few people around you.
Yes. True. Yeah, everything is very limited in that.
Robotic and law works, system works. Utopia में क्या करना है उधर कुछ नहीं. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's like
So,
everything is preordained. You are not even free to think. You just have to just follow everything that's listed for you.
is it fiction?
Yes,
Revati is
it is.
asking. Revati is our senior most member of HYDRAW.
Okay.
Sushma, for your knowledge, she's
Yeah.
asking,
No,
is it fiction?
no, I just said utopia is a fiction only. You can only imagine. I don't think it can ever exist. And if it exists, it'll be very boring, as Mehboob sir said.
Right, and I
True,
think
true, true.
the place that comes closest is Coimbatore.
Yes, of course. You are in heaven.
Because she lives in Coimbatore. Sushma, I'm cracking
Okay.
a joke. Okay.
Yeah, I heard. I got that because you mentioned it before as well when we were
Before
discussing
that
about
all
food.
right, and
Yeah.
yeah. So why did today's talk? I mean, you came for thinking of that before coming here, right? Utopia.
No,
You
no.
wanted to.
When Sons and Lovers were discussed, I thought we were discussing about classical books. So I
No,
thought that
today's
was,
was all about D.H. Lawrence.
yeah. I got
Mm,
that when immediately Lavanya spoke about the rainbow.
mm.
But then I already told you about the utopia, so I thought maybe as an end, there will be a little twist that
Right.
it's the theme
D.H.
is not.
D.H. Lawrence is out and out dystopian. I
Yeah,
mean, not fully dystopian,
yeah,
but the frailties, the deficiencies, and all that come out in his books.
yes.
Right. So, okay. Thanks, Sushma. Keep coming. You're always
Sure, definitely. I would
always
love to join every
yeah,
time, but I do my very best, even in the future to be always on time here and to be very participative.
right, and of course always something to learn from you. Lavanya,
Thank
can
you.
you wrap it up for us today? Lavanya?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a wonderful session. Yeah, thanks, Sushma, for the last minute of
Thank you.
So thanks everybody. Thank you, Stephen, for staying late with us. We usually, it's never once we have wrapped up in time. we always.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize Stephen was in the still with us. I
Here,
mean,
my eyes.
I'm sorry. I mean, we start on time, but we don't end on time, Stephen. I mean, it goes
It
on and
was
on.
very, very insightful. I am now prompted to start reading these books that you, and also the controversial debates that you're having. Yeah, because obviously everybody may have a different opinion, even on one sentence. Yeah, but it's good to see this this full passion behind and this full energy, and it really encouraged me. And also, I can say, as a very vibrant here in India, yeah, we have 1.5 billion people. Latvia has 2.4 million people. In Europe, is a very small country, and it's a bit also different mentality, of people. Where in Latvia, everybody sticks on his own, and the next house is maybe 1 kilometer away. And when Lavanya, you have your microphone switched on, you hear all the noise from the traffic there. So,
Yeah. I stay close to the road.
Stephen, just for information, the city in which we live, Lavanya, myself, Luna, Swapnil, is 8 million, 8 to 9 million. The city, not the state or the country.
Yeah,
and
so
that's thrice your country. Ours. So one question I have is, I think Hydrogen next issue, the paintings will be there. Some more of I forgot your wife's name, Katrina, maybe?
Christine.
And you'll run her paintings in the next issue also.
Yes, we have to discuss on that because usually the last quarter we have a special edition, right?
Oh, okay.
So we can
So
have the
I
series
was just
continue
wondering.
and
Okay, I was just wondering the next time you run her paintings, maybe she can come and explain. See, all art is communication. Painting, poetry, books, movies, songs, everything is communication. So we can understand more if the communicator can tell about the
But I think
painting.
Stephen did a wonderful job communicating on behalf of Christine. It was
Right.
really very
Next time
sweet.
both of them should come then.
Mahmoud, I can say also that she is a very quiet person. She is not like you are a poet and you are expressing yourself very, very much. She is a more inside thinking. She has a lot of thoughts and thinking, but even for me, it's rare that she would share some of this. Yeah, but of course we will invite her as no problem. And also, if by the next edition there is new paintings of the series ready, she will share with you so that you can then have a choice for the.
That will be in January, so we have time. Yeah.
All right then, let's wrap it up this Sunday evening and I think morning for Stephen and Christine. All of you have a good day, good night. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.